Hey there, fellow nerds, geeks, and supporters of independent creators. Aaron Nabus here, and on this episode of the Holly Show podcast, my co-host Alex Benedicto and I are joined by two comic book creators, Greg Anderson Elysée and Marcel Dupree, who have joined forces to create a horror noir comic book entitled The Gentleman. Greg is the writer and creator of his own comic book, Is Nana the Were-Spider, which he talked about on episode 31 when we first met him at Black Comix Day in February of 2018. He recently picked up 3 Glyph Awards for it, so big congratulations to Greg. Marcel is the founder and creative director of Evoluzione Publishing and is building his own comic book empire one Kickstarter campaign at a time, or rather, 2 or 3. Speaking of Kickstarter, congrats to the both of them, as well as to the rest of the creative team of The Gentleman for successfully funding their Kickstarter for what looks to be an awesome comic book. Although it was recently fully funded, their Kickstarter campaign doesn't officially end until May 31st, 2018, so please check it out and support them if you can. On this conversation, our first Skype interview ever, since Greg lives out in New York, we touch on diversity in comic books, Kickstarter tips, and of course, The Gentleman, which I can't wait to read. Enjoy. Hey there, fellow nerds and geeks. Welcome to the Hall H Show podcast. On today's show, I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Benedicto. What's up, Alex?
Hey, how's it going?
And we got 2 special guests today. We have Mr. Greg Anderson Elysée from Brooklyn, New York. How you doing? How you doing, Greg?
Hey, how you doing, man? It's good to be back.
Yeah, and we got Mr. Marcel Dupree. How you doing, Marcel?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me.
It's always good to talk to you guys. Let me just give a brief intro to our guests. Greg is from New York. He's a born Haitian American writer, filmmaker, model, and teacher. He runs a column on outhousers.com named Heard It Through the Griot Vine. That's a pretty catchy title there. Where he showcases independent creators of color and LGBTQ creators while presenting his thoughts on diversity. Is Nana the Were-Spider is his first comic. It's a really good comic book, by the way, Greg.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this year, I guess Volume 2 is going to be coming out, and you also have a story in Lion Forge's Puerto Rico Strong, right?
Yep.
And I guess today we'll be talking about The Gentleman, which is going to be published by Evoluzione Publishing, which is the publishing company that Marcel owns. I guess right off the bat, I just want to give a quick congratulations to Greg for his recent Glyph Awards for Is Nana. We got Best Male Character, Rising Star Award, and the Fan Award for Best Work. So congratulations, Greg.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
How did that feel?
I don't even know what I totally wasn't expecting. I was expecting the Fan Award, given that you can see like the votes coming in. But the other 2 I did not see at all. I was actually very shocked and grateful, I guess you can say.
And I guess you had a little friendly rivalry going on with a good friend,
Jason Reeves.
Jason Reeves.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think it definitely brought some attention to the Glyph Awards. The whole back and forth and smearing campaign that we were doing.
For sure. And if our listeners want to know a little bit more about Is Nana, we had Greg on episode 31, which we recorded at Black Comix Day back in February. That was a pretty fun experience, and it was a great time to meet you there, Greg.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great event. Everyone was dope. You were awesome too. You and Alex, you guys were very, everything was awesome.
It was kind of cool how it came together because it was the end of the event and you're getting ready to take off. The library was getting ready to close, and then I said, and you were getting ready to go back to New York, and I said, "Oh man, we got to get you on the podcast before you leave."
Yeah, everything timed in pretty well.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Marcel. I think that was the first time I met you at Black Comix Day as well.
Yeah. Well, no, we met at Keaton's Christmas party.
No, I didn't go.
I met you.
Okay, I met Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alex.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I met
that was
Marcel.
when I met them. Yeah.
Sweet.
So what?
And I guess a little brief intro to Marcel Dupree. He's the founder and creative director at Evoluzione Publishing, and he's also part of SFC Comics, which was founded in 2017 by Marcel and John Greaves and Guido Martinez, basically to expand upon the characters that they have in SFC. And they strive to put together the best teams to bring their characters to life while building and expanding their universe. Do you want to touch on that a little bit, Marcel?
Yeah. SFC started off as a wrestling comic, written by John Greaves, Guido Martinez, and Julian Coleman and myself. When we started the comic, we had ideas to expand to solo series. I went out and picked certain writers to do backup stories to test out which characters would be viable for a solo series. And then from there, I went out to get writers to do miniseries. Yeah.
And how did you guys meet?
Facebook.
Facebook. Facebook.
Yeah,
I guess Facebook is a good thing every once in a while, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a necessary evil.
I was cold messaging people about my comic Delilah Blast, trying to get backers for my Kickstarter.
Yeah, I can't remember who hit who up first overall, but I do remember seeing the there you go, tongue twister that SFC, comics, being pushed around, which I thought looked really dope. I saw like the stuff for armor, which looked cool, and I remember being just very pulled in by the covers for that wrestling comic and stuff like that. So when Marcel like reached out to me, as like possibly writing, I was just like, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. It was definitely cool to like for him to reach out to me.
So before Black Comix Day, which was in February earlier this year, like how far before that did you guys actually meet, like on Facebook?
Was it like about a year?
Yeah, about a year. Yeah. About a year.
Yeah, I think it was about a year.
And I think that sort of underscores the importance of like staying connected and actually taking the effort to put yourself out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that some creators really need to like figure out to do, because I feel like a lot of them try to do it themselves, and if not doing it themselves, I'm not too sure if they quite know how to function with trying to communicate how to work together with someone, in a professional way. I feel like there's this weird disconnect, despite the fact that we're all on like social media and wanting the same thing.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Marcel?
No, I totally agree.
And I guess before we talk about the gentleman, which actually I have to say congratulations again, because it was fully funded on Kickstarter, right?
Yes, it was.
So that's a big ups to you guys, because I mean, especially with the amount of Kickstarters that you already have going on, right, Marcel?
Yeah. This is our biggest one. This is our biggest one yet.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like I said, before we get to the gentleman, I sort of want to touch upon diversity and diversity in comic books. What does diversity mean to the both of you, and what can we do to improve representation within comic books?
You want to go first, Greg?
You want me to start? You
Yeah.
go. You're the commander in chief, so go for it.
All right, for me, it's finding different voices to have to present different characters for everybody to show that there are different lifestyles and perspectives in the world. And I think that's important because people want to see themselves represented in their media. Like for me as a kid, it was kind of hard to connect with cartoons and comics because I didn't really see me out there. And so when I set out to do this, I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to see themselves in a book.
Nice. I mean, for me, it's definitely about representation overall. Everyone, in some sense, grows up being an outsider in some way, and a lot of fiction helps us, get through that. It's that nice escapism that people look into, and it's unfortunate that the ones who even feel like more of an outsider, which are marginalized people of different races, sexualities, and so on, it's a little harder for them to find that same type of representation. And even though time has been getting better with that, there's still so much room, to do better work, quality work, and to the point where it actually feels like a normality versus, this is just a niche right here. And honestly, the best way for it to be better is for a lot of people to stop being assholes, unfortunately.
Right.
Because people are just, it's like anytime you see this one marginalized person getting some type of acclaim, getting some type of showcase or representation, all of a sudden it's a big deal. It's something to be questioned, something to be suspicious about, and to totally try to sweep it under the rug. And that's unfortunate, because it's pretty much just saying, unless you're quote unquote normal, you have no place in this fantasy world, this escapism.
Yeah, those are really good points. And I guess maybe to sort of drill a little bit deeper, how does the fight for proper representation shape you as a creator of comic books? In terms of your approach and the type of subject matter that you actually want to showcase in your projects.
I don't know. For me, it doesn't really. It's not like I even go into mind saying, "Oh, I want to just represent this type of person." It just comes naturally for me, just like the same argument that people say, oh, they just write what they know. I write what I know in the sense of I grew up in a very diverse city. I grew up in diverse schools where people of all different types of race, genders, sexual orientation, literally that is the norm for me. So it's unfortunate when a lot of these stories, these fantasy stories that take places in urban cities like this, don't actually look anything like the reality. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so that is me just actually being honest with myself and writing what I know.
Oh, yeah, I think it's important. I think I've interviewed a few writers and they always say, write what you know. That's definitely a good point. Do you want to add anything to that, Marcel?
No, that's my exact approach as well. Just write what I know.
Mm-hmm. Now, I guess we can go into The Gentleman. What inspired this story, and maybe we can go what's the elevator pitch for this comic book?
Should I give the elevator pitch and then
yes,
you go into the character?
Yeah.
All right, so what I usually say for The Gentleman, it's like a horror noir Lovecraftian story, but without the racism and bigotry of Lovecraft himself.
Well, yeah, you kind of beat me to that because I was gonna. I read your interview on blacksci-fi.com, so I was gonna. Hopefully, you give the elevator pitch, and I was gonna say, what about the Lovecraft without the racism? So I guess you can sort of go more into it since you already went down that road.
Yeah, but essentially, it's about a private detective whose heart holds the lock to this ancient evil called the Void, and this femme fatale who comes into his life who might possibly hold the key to his heart. So it becomes this whole thing of, should she be trusted? Is this like trouble coming ahead, or is this a love story? So no one really knows.
It's like
you read
it's like figuratively and literally, huh?
Exactly.
And I guess before we get into the characters, I mean, how did the story evolve? Is this correct me if I'm wrong, but Marcel, you actually came up with the character and the concept initially?
I came up with the character, yeah.
Okay.
I came up with the void concept and him being a detective. For the void is like a metaphor for depression. I battle depression, and so I wanted to represent that in a character. So I gave it to the gentleman. It's something that he's constantly having to fight, and he doesn't want it, and trying to not have it take over him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was basically when we did SFC, we all presented characters, and we voted on which ones had the most viability to make the cut.
So I'm sure this story has, is really near and dear to your heart, right?
Yeah. Yes,
I find that very interesting to hear, simply because we never talked about that. This is cool hearing that.
I kind of keep that to myself. I just decided to start sharing that.
I mean, I guess that in that sense it comes naturally, given that I did definitely get the sense of the void being, on top of like darkness, a cloud hovering over somebody. Mm-hmm. And given that I've also like been dealing with depression myself for like since I was young, I guess it was very natural to find Oliver's voice, amongst all that the crazy shit that he goes through in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of Oliver, why don't you tell us a little bit more about him, Marcel?
Oliver he was a cop at first. During one of his missions, a case he kind of lost control of the void and ended up doing something that got him kicked off the force. And then he was aiming around, wondering, purposeless in life. And then Samson, the owner of SFC, talked him into joining SFC. And while at SFC, he was finding a sense of home, a place where he belonged. But then the void kind of took over and ruined that for him. So he was fired from SFC, and he went started his own PI firm as a way to make money.
Yeah, I guess that's when I step in. His time that you find out that he had his own supporting cast and support system where he was married. He was happily married. And both him and his wife were sharing a boyfriend together. So they were like in a polyamorous thing. And while things were good and well, essentially, I guess the void comes back in a sense to, proclaim its, its existence into their lives. And that sort of drives both the wife and the boyfriend away from Oliver. And so, like, this story picks up when I guess maybe a year into that whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And him trying to continue on with his life, trying to see if he can suppress his feelings in the void, which ends up getting a little trippy because his boyfriend comes back with the femme fatale of the story. And so that's what sort of rehashes everything going on.
Now, this is a 4-part series, I believe?
Yes.
And have you decided 4 issues and that's it, or is there like a chance that it may continue?
There's a large chance that it may continue, all based on success. If people want it, we'll keep doing it. I want Greg to keep doing it personally. I'm into the story, so I want to do it as long as Greg wants to do it.
I'm down, man. I'm down. I'm having fun with this.
So when you were looking for somebody to, write the comic book, Marcel, what made you decide to ask Greg?
the way he carries himself online,
Mm-hmm.
and the way he interacts with people, it's I want something like that. People like that to represent my company. Like he is outspoken, but also respectful. He's a talented writer.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
He's about to make me cry.
Yeah, as I Isnan is definitely a good example of, that's my first exposure to one of your projects, Greg, and I was definitely impressed by that comic book.
Thank you, man. It seems that book has definitely been reaching out to people and helping me get some work, so I'm definitely appreciative of that.
Now, why don't we go a little bit more into the other members of the creative team, like the artist and the colorist?
All right. The artist is Massimiliano Veltri. I was introduced to him by Federico Sabatini. Federico is the artist on Angelica Reigns. Massimiliano used to work at Marvel. He does work for Titan. And the colorist is Marco Pagnotta. He colors most SFC comics. He colors SFC, he colors Versailles, and The Gentleman.
And they go on.
I'm working with Marco for about 2 or 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very reliable and very fast. Like, he's gonna knock out 2 books in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just had a random thought in my head. If you moved to Italy, would you showcase American talent?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, is there anything else you want to add to? Is there any other members of the creative team that maybe you want to highlight?
Oh yeah, Micah Myers, the letter. How can I forget Micah? Yeah. Micah is a very talented person. That's all I have to say about Micah.
Yeah, and the team is great. So far, just working with everyone. Like Massimiliano, he's so laid back and he's just so talented, and it's great seeing your work brought to life, and he's been bringing in some really cool ideas, some that are literally exactly what I've written, but just seeing it, come to life and seeing him put his own spin to it along with his layouts and storytelling just blows me away, and Marco's colors are just awesome. He's really playing with the different dynamics of exaggerating colors, and shifting that into that whole the dark noir thing, which is very trippy and cool and surreal.
And how long did this project take, from the planning stages to putting it on Kickstarter?
I can't even remember, honestly, at this point.
I think we started last summer. Well, we did a cover last summer to put in the back of Angelica Reigns #1. But I think art started January.
Yeah, the art was actually fairly recent, and we got pretty far in. Even coming up with the story, I can't even remember how long ago that was. I just remember Marcel reaching out to me, and literally within the next day, I went out to buy some books, horror noir books and stuff like that, to try to get my head in the mindset. And I think I got to the pitch pretty fast.
So
yeah,
what kind of books did you use for inspiration?
I definitely used I was looking at noir and also horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fatale from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips was definitely one of the main ones. Because I feel you can find horror books, you can find noir books, but it's hard to find one that mixes both of them very well. David Hines' Darkness book that he did with Jeremy Hahn is definitely an inspiration. I reread Beloved from Toni Morrison, the novel, and of course I was looking at a lot of old school like horror noir type films, like the Val Lewton stuff from like the 1940s and stuff like that.
We'll definitely have to look at some of that stuff too.
Yeah, man, just let me know. I'll shoot you a list.
Sweet. If there was speaking of movies, if there was a movie adaptation of The Gentleman, who would you want to direct it, and who would you want to play some of the characters?
For me, director, I don't have an idea yet, but actor, I modeled Oliver after Idris Elba in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I find that very funny because I remember when you asked me to make him in English, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I see now. All right.
Yeah. Do you have an idea for a director?
I mean, it's funny. When I'm writing these books, I don't really think about them in movie terms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so focused on it just being a solid story first and foremost. But I do like, given that I'm into filmmaking, I probably want to try to direct it.
Nice. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. And acting wise, I honestly I don't know. I don't think I have a particular person in mind. But I can see Idris Elba just based on, I guess, how we've sort of established the character in the book. I can sort of see that type of swag and personality.
Now let's talk a little bit about the Kickstarter. It ends on May 31st, right?
Yes.
You want to sort of go into some of the, I guess, some of the rewards that you have going on there?
Yeah. We have a digital PDF. We have which is the 32-page copy of the book. We have a deluxe PDF, which is the book with the script and a few of the pencils. We have a book. We have a tier where you can get it's not enough volume 1 and The Gentleman. It's called Trading Up. So you get Greg's first book and you get The Gentleman. We have where you can get a T-shirt. We also have one where you can get a print by David Brain. If you guys are not familiar with David Brain, you should really check him out. He's a talented artist. We have a book with him coming out pretty soon. What else is there? And we have a variant cover by Vincenzo. I cannot pronounce his last name. Sorry, it's the Vincenzo variant cover.
No,
that was actually Vincenzo's first cover ever.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to Kickstarter, like, what are some strategies that you sort of employ to try to, ensure, success of the project?
Promotion. I try to promote a month or two out. I also maintain an email list.
Mm-hmm.
And just a great page design. Our pages are designed by Brant Fowler, who also does a lot of our logo design.
Oh, nice.
And making sure we have great art to on display for people.
Yeah, and definitely you gotta stay like extremely busy, with pushing it. You have to go through all these different channels and social media, trying to see if you can get some like showcases on websites, interviews, and stuff like that, which I think a lot of people don't quite do, or they don't feel like they know the resources of how to go about it, and so they don't know how to simply ask, how to email, and even whether they're rejected or not. The fact is like they try, because you never know who's willing to like take a bite and just say, yeah, sure, I'll help you out, and just having it on certain websites that have like a fan base, that definitely opens up some eyes.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. I remember like when we first started our podcast, usually we're the ones who sort of seek out guests, but the first time somebody actually contacted us, and it's sort of like, oh, then other creators started to contact us. So it's definitely worth it to take that chance, because it's like you said, you never know unless you try.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now, definitely needs to take advantage of all that, given that Facebook is the whole algorithm bullshit has like made it so much harder, so much fucking harder to actually make as much reach as you can impossible. Because when I did Isnana, the first one, that so many people from all over, they were able to see it just based on one post, and now it's like, you got to rake your brains out to try to figure out how to pass that fucking algorithm.
Yeah, that definitely is. I guess you just have to be maybe more creative, I guess, on how to push out stuff. But it is definitely unfortunate that they made that change to the algorithm.
Yeah, it's made it way harder. It really sucks. Because a lot of times I'm getting messages like, "You're doing a Kickstarter? I didn't know about it." I've been posting about it for months before we even debuted.
I guess I started want to go a little bit back to the creative process of, actually, we'll take The Gentleman, for example. Like when Marcel, asked you to sort of develop the story, like how did you, go about, game planning for it, Greg?
Well, I think for one, Marcel, like first he asked me to pitch a story, I guess I wasn't sure if he was asking other people also.
No,
part of me,
I went straight.
I figured.
I went straight to you. I knew from as soon as I said I wanted to do a miniseries, I knew I had you in mind. I went straight to you. I was just like, "Please turn in something good. Please turn in something good." And yeah, it was good. It was great.
Yeah, thank you, man. But yeah, he came in. He told me who the character was, the concept he has, the general concept, and his personality, and so on and so forth. And so, I guess just based off of what he told me, that gets my mind like working. Especially like it's a good exercise, given that it's not one of my own characters,
right?
And like I feel like even though I have so many grand ideas for my own characters, I think it's cool to exercise, my brain power, trying to figure out, okay, how would I actually treat someone else's toys, like what type of stories comes along that I never would have thought about unless, something like that. So, trying to come up with the concept, I thought some of the ideas came out very easy because it just felt like very gradual and natural, like a type of thing that I would have liked to tell. And even within even though the first script and the pitch was done, like the layouts were done for a while, there was still like some things we were tweaking, even like within like last month, with the script, which was very cool to like bounce ideas back and forth, between Marcel and Massimiliano and so on and so forth.
Now, Marcel, like your initial, I guess the way you initially envisioned the character of Oliver and what Greg came up with, like how much of a difference was there at the end? Was it
no difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, he stuck to exactly what I asked. So, like I said, I told him from the beginning. I asked him if he liked horror. I asked him if he liked noir. I asked him. He said yes. I was like, "Can you put those together in a story for me?" Told him about the character. Yeah, he did. Not much has changed.
And I'll give some leeway too in the fact of Marcel still gave me a lot of free reign, to mess around and do a lot of like my own ideas with the character within the frame of what he gave me.
Right.
Like it was like he had the basic general concept of the character, then it was like create an adventure for him, type thing. And so, I got to create, essentially the cast, the people that he interacts with, even the villain of the story, so like having that ability to have that free reign, even though like I had particular limits, was a lot of fun for me.
Now, is the villain a reveal, or is that something you can talk about?
That will definitely be spoiling.
Okay.
I will say, yeah, you'll see the villain within the first issue, and you'll definitely be getting more and more as the story goes on. But that's definitely one of those things where I can't really say much about the character without revealing spoilers and so on and so forth. Like even to the point where Massimiliano, I guess there was a detail he didn't catch with the villain, and he was just like, "Wait, what?" Like he just like it seemed like it blew his mind, and I was just like, "Oh shit! I guess I just spoiled shit for my artist," you know.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the Void though. Is it a sentient entity?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like this is where the Lovecraft influence comes in, you know, with the whole like hidden creature that's underneath, you know, like the humanity and what's actually under the surface, you know, sort of trying to seep out, you know, and it's like this ancient evil, this dark creature that's been around since maybe like the beginning of time for all we know, you know, and the only way to stop it was to conceal it into a particular body, and it's been sort of being passed through legacy, you know, from like going back to when it first started, going back to person to person to person, you know, in order for them to sort of act as a guardian to protect the world from it, you know, coming out. And unfortunately, you know, it makes everyone miserable.
Are you guys familiar with Vampire Hunter D?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
Okay, well, I don't know. The reason I asked about the Void, you know, being sentient is because, you know, in Vampire Hunter D, he has this hand that he has, and you know, you later on you find out that it's, you know, it's sentient and it has its own will, and they have this sort of you know, witty, you know, repartee and banter that they have back and forth. So I was just curious if that was the same relationship that Oliver had with the Void.
I would say it's different. It's definitely different. They do interact in a way, but it's not something that's like in the forefront in that sense.
Gotcha.
You know, it's more so like this spirit that's like haunting him from time to time. You know, and it's sort of like poking at him, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna get you one day. I'm gonna come out, you know, type of thing, and just waiting. He's just biding his time, type thing.
It was
kind of like Naruto. If I don't know if you're familiar with Naruto.
Oh yeah. Oh, with the fox.
Yeah, the Nine-Tailed Fox.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Kind of that kind of relationship.
Perfect. I was gonna say maybe it's sort of like a Cable and the Technovirus with if the Technovirus was sentient.
Yeah, actually, it's wow, I never even thought of that. Yeah, that's actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, especially considering there's a very similar scene in the Deadpool movie when he's looking at the Technovirus through the mirror. You know, it's sort of similar to when you see Oliver looking at the void sort of spreading throughout his body in the first issue.
That was an amazing panel.
Yeah, that came out so great.
Have you seen that panel, Aaron?
No, not yet.
It's on the I think I put it on the Kickstarter page.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at it again.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add to the gentleman or to the Kickstarter?
We have more stretch goals in mind. One stretch goal I really would like to make it to. I don't think we will be able to make it to, but if we could get to 10,000, everybody would get a free copy of the Noir edition, which is you get to see Maximiliano's black and white art. It will be a black and white book with a cardstock cover. Maximiliano asked about doing a black and white edition. I was like, that's a great idea, and I would like to give it to everyone for free.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Even before Marco put his colors in, just you know, Massimiliano playing with the black and whites and the gray stones. Like even those, I was just like, even if we didn't have a colorist, I would be so like I would be very fine, you know. But definitely like in both versions, like just having the ability to have, you know, Massimiliano's great tones, and also having Marco's colors, that I think it would be, two sides of the same coin, just freaking dope.
Yeah.
Cool. We have a few other segments of the Hall H show. We have the Thunder Round, which is our off the beaten path set of questions. After that, we'll sort of go into Art Watch, where each of us will sort of put the spotlight on a writer, artist, cosplayer, photographer, filmmaker, or other creative that you think our audience should check out. And then we have the superhero shoutouts, where you can give thanks to people that have helped you along the way. So for the Thunder Round, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Alex. You want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay, let's start off with the first question. What was the last song you sang in the shower?
Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh man, I definitely was singing. Y'all gonna laugh at me. I was definitely singing. I know the soundtrack of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
It could have been the Roxy Hart song, or the They Both Reach for the Gun song. Like, I've just been going back and forth with like that musical for some reason. I don't know why.
I haven't seen it. Is it good?
Yeah, man, it's a very cleverly written story, like a script and all that stuff. And the music, the jazz music, is really cool.
All right, I have to check that out.
All right. Okay, kind of musical related. So, if you were in a band, what instrument would you play?
For me, probably drums.
Drums.
Yeah,
I'd say. No, go on.
I just like drums. I don't know why, but yeah.
Nice. If not African or Caribbean drums, definitely vocal. I used to live I was in a short-lived rock band for like a very, very short time, which I'm glad we don't have any of our recordings.
Oh man, I would love to hear them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but definitely vocal. I've been out of practice, but
It's probably on Napster somewhere, right?
I don't think we ever uploaded it on anything. So.
All right, cool. All right, next question. If you were president of the United States, what kind of artwork would you hang up in the Oval Office?
That's a weird one. A lot of pop art, probably, but pop art from comic artists. I like the pop art comic style. I like Jack Kirby. What's his name? I think Nathan Fox is his name. Yeah.
I would choose like some mixed media type stuff, like Dave McKean or Bill Sinkovich type work. Like, I love that type of stuff.
Nice.
Cool. All right. See you next question. Seeing as how you're both horror fans, what horror movie, novel, or comic book would you give to each other as a gift?
I would give Marcel the Val Lewton collection that has his 1930s and 40s horror films, like The Cat People, which I sort of give a nod to, and Gentleman has Seventh Victim, Curse of the Cat People, I Walked with the Zombie, a whole bunch of like really old school B horror films, which were actually the competition for Universal for a while.
Wow, I need to check that out. Now my answer's kind of lame. I would give you Dead Silence.
Is that with the puppets?
Yes.
I remember that one.
That's one of my favorite horror movies.
Nice.
All right, let's see. Next question. If you have a one-way trip to go back in time to change an event, what event would you change?
That is a very loaded question.
That is.
I almost don't want to answer it because I don't want to get in trouble. Because there's a lot of shit I would go back in time for to like change and make sure it doesn't happen. As for if it has something to do with myself personally, I'd probably go back in time to sort of, I guess, get in my head to sort of relax about, myself. I definitely went through a lot of bullshit growing up, not feeling like I'd be okay. So I'd say that just to sort of be like a mental guide of like self-care, I guess, and also telling myself not to spend money on a lot of bullshit because you're going to want to be paying for it when you're looking for artists for your comic book and shit like that.
For myself, I'll also take a personal approach to stay safe. I would tell myself to
We'll have to get you guys on the podcast again so we can, dive a little bit deeper.
probably not to quit drawing. That's one thing I do regret. I
regret that too.
I quit drawing when I was 16 because I grew up in a religious family, and a lot of my artwork was deemed demonic, and I was tired of hearing about it, so I just stopped doing it.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Last question. Okay. What hero or villain would you want to be your sidekick? And this would be interesting because Greg, you just posted on Facebook that if you do in Two-Face, what your favorite hero and villain?
Hell yeah.
So who would you want to be your sidekick?
I guess I would just say Brother Voodoo and yeah, I don't know what else to say to that.
I'll probably pick Damien Robin.
That's my favorite Robin.
Yeah,
cool.
He's hilarious.
Well, I guess.
All right.
So I guess the question, Marcel, was who would you want to be a sidekick to?
Who I want to be a sidekick. I want to tell you who you want to have a sidekick. Who I want to be a sidekick to?
Yeah.
Deadpool.
All right. That'd be crazy.
Wow. Good luck surviving that.
It'd be really entertaining. Or Domino. Either or.
I'm curious, Aaron and Alex, who would you guys pick?
Yeah.
Well, that's tricky because I'm a big Galactus and Silver Surfer fan, and I don't like how Marvel has portrayed them. So I'd want to be Silver Surfer to like his herald to Galactus, but in my own way. Like I'd recreate the mythos behind them.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, I'll probably be Nightwing, just because I like his fighting style. It's real similar to Filipino martial arts, so he'd probably be Nightwing.
That's cool.
All right. I think that's it for the Thunder Round questions.
Oh, speaking of Thunder, I guess before I go on, like you had a little thing, you threw some shade on Thundercats recently, Greg.
I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Nah, it's not okay. All right, I don't get the appeal for it. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's just because it's old and we have more kids." It's like, no. I've watched cartoons from the '60s and '70s, and they're awesome. This Thundercats I don't understand because every time I try to watch it, it bores the freaking hell out of me.
They had a remake like in the early 2000s, I think. Did you ever watch that one?
2011.
I didn't. I never got a chance to watch that. Really? I never got a chance to watch it.
I thought it was well done. Right, Marcel?
Yeah,
it was. I enjoyed it.
I heard good things about it. But like, I just feel the hate that the new one is getting is just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's unwarranted. I could understand like being disappointed that it's not how you want it, but people is like really hands-on hating it and threatening the creator, and my whole childhood is being ruined thing, and it's just like that's complete bullshit. Just buy the DVDs of the old one.
It's just like this whole thing with Star Wars, like the old guard, they're so upset about the last Star Wars movie before Solo.
Which I loved. I thought Last Jedi was great. I know a lot of people hate on it.
I liked it too. There's a. Do you guys know who Dave Chang is? He's a famous chef.
No, I'm not familiar with him.
He had a few restaurants on the East Coast, but he's now in LA. But he recently started his own podcast, and he had Rian Johnson there.
Oh, nice!
And they talked a little bit about. It was interesting because Dave Chang, he's one of those old school guys too, and on his first watch of The Last Jedi, like he didn't like it, but he said he watched it like a dozen more times, and then he ended up thinking that it was probably one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars movie. So it was an interesting conversation. I encourage our audience to go check out Dave Chang's podcast and look for that episode with Rian Johnson. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there were some stuff on the storytelling aspect could have been better, but I felt like the general theme and everything I just thought was perfect. I like the whole like flipping the switch on us as an audience, because I feel like in a way, even though there's been some great stories following the original trilogy, but it's been pretty stagnant. And I felt like we sort of needed that sort of like, what the hell did I just watch? With Star Wars, and give us something new, something fresh, something that, will piss us off, but it's not, they're pissing us off because they're just trying something new and it actually still sticks with the general universe,
I guess the next segment of our podcast is something that we call Art Watch. And when we say art, it's sort of used a little bit loosely because an artist can be a writer, cosplayer, photographer, filmmaker, or other creative. Is there an artist out there that you want to sort of tell our audience about?
I have quite a few.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. From a writer's standpoint, Joshua Metzger. He writes a book for my company called Metzger and Pollock Presents Villain. It's probably one of my favorite books that we put out. Joshua's a very talented writer. He just doesn't believe in self-promotion.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. He's very talented. He just doesn't believe in self-promotion. So I'll promote him. Check out anything by Joshua Metzger. He also has a book called Punch Drunk by Arcana. It's a graphic novel that came out a few years ago. You should all check out.
Nice.
Yeah, there's also Guido Martinez, another writer who does not promote himself. He has a book right now on Kickstarter called Ruby and the Warriors of Neon. If you like fantasy, you should check that out. Artists that people should be watching, Glyph Pollock. He's a artist from Poland. You should be checking out Keaton Jones. He's a talented artist. David Brain is also a talented artist you should be checking out. Mark Henry. And that's about it for right now.
Speaking about Keithan, I think he just fully funded his Kickstarter.
Oh,
Yes, he
great.
did.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah, congratulations, Keithan.
Yeah, Keith.
Yeah, congrats.
For me, I mean, I'll add on with Keithan also. Keithan Jones, I think he's awesome. I guess a shout out to Miguel Blanco, Michael White, who his work I just think is very, very spectacular. There's very like nuance, fluidity to his work that I think is really cool. I definitely would love to work with him at some point. Wanagachi Mutu, who's like a mixed media artist whose work, like, she's just spellbinding. There's just so many, this last weekend at the Glyph Awards and at ECBAC, meeting so many great creators, especially people that I looked up to, Tony Isabella, Don McGregor, Alexander Simmons, who I've met multiple times, but finally being able to like have like a heart to heart, was also very cool. And Sheba Maya, her work is just ridiculous. Yeah, there's just so many. So many. So I guess those will be my picks for today.
How about you, Alex?
The artist I wanted to promote was I was watching Jim Lee on Twitch, and he was streaming, and when he ended his stream, he hosted another artist, and it was like, cool. Let me look through his stuff. Da, 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 da. So I went on Instagram. I go, oh, you worked on Isnana, so it's Walter Osley, the artist who worked on Greg's book, first book. So yeah, it was cool watching him stream, and he has a cool web comic called Hacksaw, and so he has a couple other comics coming out too. So Walter Osley.
Cool. I was kind of recently listening to some of Jay Dilla's stuff on Spotify, and an artist that we sort of follow and that we see at various conventions, Just Scope. It's JUSSCOPE. That's his name on Instagram. He did this pretty cool, like in his style, sort of like a CD or album cover. So, or maybe it was like a flyer, but it's still pretty cool in the style that Just Scope does. He does a lot of pop culture art, so check it out. It's pretty dope.
Nice.
I guess the next segment is superhero shoutouts, because we have to give thanks because we can't do this by ourselves. Is there anybody out there that you sort of want to give thanks to?
You can go first, Greg.
Marcel first and foremost. That's
it. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Just so many people, who are just behind me. My family, my friends, my partner. Names are just like flicking in my head like right now, so I'm not. You got me on the spot there. But yeah, just even the judges, at the Glyph Awards for like recognizing me last week. Like that's still something that's very surprising, and I'm very grateful for. So I guess I'll give a shout out to them also.
Cool. Marcel?
I like to thank Greg, the rest of the gentleman team. I like to thank my partner. I like to thank Keaton Jones. He's a great mentor. Brian Hawkins and everyone else who helps me out. Blanking on names, but you guys know who you are. I appreciate all of your help.
And also some chaps named Aaron and Alex. They're pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. The unfortunate thing about doing a podcast remotely is that we can't hang out afterwards and grab a beer or something like that.
Yeah, we got to do it next time I'm around.
That's a done deal, brother. I want to thank Alex, because without Alex, we wouldn't have hallh.com.
Cool. Thanks. All right. See, my superhero shout out, since Memorial Day is coming around the corner, just all the vets that serve, especially being from a military town and military family, shout out to all the vets that has passed and gone on.
Awesome.
Great.
I guess we can sort of flash forward a little bit and talk about some of the projects you have in the pipeline. I know that you have Isnana, the Were Spider Volume 2 coming out, Greg, and I'm sure you have some current Kickstarters and future projects you want to promote. Right, Marcel?
Yes, I do. Greg, you go first.
I do, yeah. It's not a Volume 2. I'm trying to finalize everything. I know a lot of people have been waiting very patiently, some impatiently, constantly hitting me up for it, which I understand it's coming. I promise everyone who's listening that it's coming. Gentlemen, as we've been talking about today, damn, what else do I have? There's a Stronghold from Jason Reeves that I'm actually working with him on. It's a spin-off character from his universe of One Nation. He asked me a while back to help develop this one character, and so that's what I'm working on also.
I love all this collaboration that's going on.
Yeah, it's that's how it works, man. It's awesome.
Marcel?
You could also say your other project that we have coming out, since, even though it's far, far away.
Oh yeah. So here's one thing, about Marcel. Marcel will shoot his load so fast before the foreplay even happens. We Marcel asked me to, I guess, pitch another idea for a completely different type of thing, and it's a story that I've had in my mind for a couple of years, but I never got to sit down to actually flesh it out. So that was pretty cool for Marcel to get me on board for something like that. But it's sort of working with, I guess, the sort of African tradition of twins being these magical beings, and it's sort of putting like a futuristic sci-fi spin to it, with them in space, sort of being like these space pirates, and
interesting.
dealing with all these weird, freaky shit.
Now, will it take place in our galaxy or another galaxy?
I don't know yet. I don't even think I want to answer that entirely. I'm just, sort of establishing everything right now, but it's definitely, like I'm trying to go as trippy and all out as possible with it, and I definitely want it to be like a One Piece type story, but in space.
One Piece, the manga and anime?
Yeah.
Okay. That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
I have, SFC Comics has Dynamo #1 coming out in July by Jenny Wood and Alessandro Maselli. You might recognize Alessandro from his recent work for Ed Brisson. They recently wrapped up a book. Didn't the name right now. Sorry. It is called Ballad of Sing. I don't know if you guys read that, but he did that for Oni. He's now working on Dynamo, which comes out next month. Well, no, it comes out in July. We also have another book by Brian Hawkins coming in July called The Crowding, which is an urban fantasy book about shape-shifting dragons. I have Armor 1 #4 coming in next month. A whole bunch of stuff. You can just follow me on social media. All of it is too much to list.
Speaking of social media, where can people find you guys on social media?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Evoluzione Pub, and I'm also on Instagram and Twitter under Marcel Dupree, and Facebook Marcel Dupree, Facebook Evoluzione Publishing, SFC Comics.
I dare anyone who's gonna look you up to not look in how they spell Evolutions. Publishing, just based on how you pronounce it, then search it.
Well, that's kind of funny because before the podcast started, I asked Marcel how he actually pronounced Evoluzione, and it's Italian, and we were laughing about it because in the Kickstarter video that Greg did for the gentleman, how did you pronounce it, Greg?
I butchered the hell out of that damn name, man. Like, I said Evoluzione. And it's funny because Marcel heard the damn thing before I even put it up, and he did not say anything. He asked me to change certain things, which I did, but that was one thing he did not ask me to change. So I'm just like, what the hell, dude?
It is hard for anyone to pronounce. It's even hard for me to pronounce at times. And I don't want to, put people on the spot, like, yeah, you're pronouncing it wrong. You got the idea of it. That's all that counts.
Well, we're all looking forward to the gentleman coming out. It's hello? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No worries.
Damn it, Alex.
We're all looking forward to the Gentleman coming out, and it's slated to come out in September, I believe.
Yes, but it's gonna probably come out way sooner than that. We're already almost done.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we have like how many more pages left to draw, Greg? Like 9?
Yeah, I think we're like more than halfway. So we have a couple of pages for Massimiliano to finish, for Marco to get started on, and Marco works pretty fast and get the letters in.
And Micah's really fast. Micah knocked out a book in a weekend.
Yeah, like I said, we're looking forward to it. Is there anything else that you guys want to add to The Gentleman before we close out the show?
I haven't.
Yeah, I just hope that people check it out, that they're willing to take a chance on it. It's definitely something new, something fresh that I haven't done before, and I think a lot of readers haven't read before. So I think it'd be cool. Let's help each other out. I give you a good story, you support us.
That's right. Support those independent creators. Do you want to close out the show, Alex?
Yeah, sure. All right. Thanks for listening to the Hall 8 Show podcast. We love putting the spotlight on some of our favorite pop culture and comic book artists, writers, and other creatives like Greg and Marcel. You can find this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and on our website, hallh.com. If you believe in our mission to be the voice of independent creators, we'd appreciate a rating and a comment on iTunes. And please spread the word on social media using the hashtag Hall8Show. Peers, cheers, and artists assemble. And please make it a point to visit Artist Alley at all the conventions you plan on going to this year. And don't forget that representation matters.
That's right. Representation matters. Go get The Gentleman. Marcel and Greg, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us, man.
We'll get that beer someday. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.